Welcome, welcome. This is Dr. Elena Estanol with Luminescent Life and Intuitive Business Mastery, and I am excited to be here with you today. So, welcome all of you. And I am going to be opening um, the chat window, and basically we're going to be using the chat to, and I'm going to type this in, to just introduce yourself and tell me where you're joining us from. So I just want to kind of, start getting a little sense of who is here with me, and it just like helps me to know, you know, just who's here. Sophie from London. Great. Welcome. Welcome. I love it. Somebody asked me why I was doing this training at this time. And I said, well, I know that there's a few people that are overseas that when I do trainings really late, they're not able to come. So I'm really glad that you're here and that this worked out for you. And I'm just gonna be, waiting for maybe a couple more minutes for other people to come in and start introducing themselves. We will be using the chat rather than the Q&A for you to be asking questions and interacting with me. I would love for you guys to write your insights, your aha moments, that kind of thing, because I'm gonna try to go and share with you as much as I can. So yeah, so if you're just joining Joseph from Malaysia, oh, it's 3 a.m. Oh my God, I am so glad that you are here, and bless you for being up so early or so late, whatever applies for you. So I'm really, really grateful that you are here, and welcome. So it seems like there's not a good time that's good time for everybody, right? So I'm just delighted that you guys have been able to make it here. And I am keeping my screen on me for now as I'm welcoming each of you. Anytime's a good time. And as soon as I start, I'm going to be sharing my screen so that you will get to see some of my slides so that you can be able to take notes and that kind of thing. A lot of times I start talking a little too fast and then people are like, oh, I can't follow. And so please let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. If questions are popping up, just type them. If there's aha moments that are popping up, type them in the chat. I like it to be as interactive as possible because I feel like that's what's gonna expedite your learning even more. So I'm just really, really delighted to have you all here. So I'm just gonna write that in here just for other people as they're joining us in. And why I'm asking you to kind of type your aha moments and insights, it's because a lot of times whenever somebody recognizes like, oh my gosh, this is something that I do, or I hadn't recognized that I did, or wow, like I didn't realize this was happening, it really can spur that same awareness for somebody else as they are able to read some of the insights and aha moments that you are getting. And so I like doing that because it basically improves the learning for everybody else that is joining us. So and then I'm just going to be opening here my PowerPoint here in a minute so that we can get started. So I am very curious as to what is the biggest reason why what drew you to join me today. What is the thing that you really are wanting to get out the most, and just type it in, and I'll make sure that I hit on those points. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to my screen share. And by the way, just an FYI, I think sometimes people tell me, you know, like you're not in PowerPoint mode. I'm going to be sharing basically my screen, and can you see it? Can you see my slide there? And a lot of times people tell me like, you're not in PowerPoint mode. Like, do you know that you're not? And so I do that intentionally because when you click PowerPoint, then you can't see any other window at the same time. So then I'm not able to actually see the chats, and I'm not able to see what people are saying and that kind of thing. And so I like to keep it in this way so that I can actually get to see, you know, what's happening for each of you and your questions and comments and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to let you know in case you were like wondering like, why is why is she not in the PowerPoint mode? Anyhow, well, we're just gonna, you know, dive in and get started. You're in the right places. We're gonna be talking about the 3 dangerous trends that are affecting your focus, productivity, and overall results. And I am Dr. Elena Estanol from Luminescent Life and Intuitive Business Mastery. And first of all, I really want to start by saying thank you and congratulations for being here. Partly because just the fact that you are here right now is already setting you aside and apart from other people as a high achiever. Partly because there's a lot of people that will actually register for trainings and then they won't come and they won't show up. And that's a pretty common. Oh, I see that my sharing is fast. Okay. So if for whatever reason you see that you stop, that you're not seeing my screen or anything like that, let me know, please. Okay? Did that fix it? I hope that did. So if you're in, just kind of let me know, yes, I'm seeing it. So I just want to congratulate you for actually taking the time to learn how you can optimize your focus, productivity, and your success, and so that you can actually start working smarter and not harder, and that you can feel more ease and joy in the things that you do. So great. Thank you. Love it. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. And I know there's a little bit of a delay, but that's awesome. So I want to give you also 2 awesome reasons for you to stay at the very end. So I'm going to give you 2 incentives. One of them is that I'm going to give you a special gift at the end that is going to help you create a multi-6-figure revenue in your business. And it's basically a step-by-step plan of how you can create a multi-6-figure revenue business, just like I have. And I'm also going to be sharing a pretty revolutionary, one-of-a-kind invitation that it can really change your life and your business. So if any of you have come in just directly from registering to the webinar and have not actually gotten some of the training videos and some of the lessons from Quantum Leap Your Results, I strongly encourage you to sign up, and here's a URL for you to sign up, and you will be getting basically a video training each day and a really comprehensive guide. And I will touch on some of those points today, but that will take you a lot deeper. So, and that's totally free. So I wanted you to know that if you haven't done that already, please do. If you're having trouble receiving the emails, I switched to email servers, and that's kind of a big thing. And so please forgive me and let me know if you're not getting it so that I make sure that I fix that for you, okay? So the things that we're gonna cover is basically what's impacting your focus and productivity, and what you can do about it. And it's really how the distractions are wrecking your business, how they're wrecking your profits, your ability to really be successful and productive and profitable in anything that you're doing, and what's really responsible for your results, and of course, what you can do to make it better. So before we get started and really dive in, great, that's awesome. I want you to turn off all of your distractions, because I know that we have a ton of them, all of us. And I'd love for you to stop multitasking, surfing the net, or cruising along while you're listening. and just really commit to fully listen to me, to watch, to learn all the way to the end, for you to basically take notes and a pen. If you're a doodler or like to take picture notes, do that. Whatever thing works for you that will actually keep you engaged. We all have different modes of learning, and so whatever your best mode of learning is, engage that part. And before I really dive in totally, I want to just have us take a couple of deep breaths, because I know that whenever we're running around going from whatever one thing to the next. I know, Joseph, you're like staying up super late, or waking up super early. I don't know which one of the two. So I'm just super appreciative. And so I just want us to just take a couple moments and just kind of plant your feet on the ground and allow your eyes to close for a second, and just take a nice long deep breath, inhaling deeply all the way in, and then exhaling with a sigh. And let's do one more nice deep cleansing breath, inhaling all the way in. Deep, deep, all the way to your diaphragm. And exhaling. And really allowing your muscles to relax, your body to settle. Find your comfortable breathing rate. And you can go ahead and open your eyes and just kind of notice how even. Oh, great. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Joseph, giving me a big smile. I appreciate it. I want you to notice how even just two short little breaths really kind of like settle us, right? And help us just feel a little bit more focused and intentional. So I'm really, really excited. So one of the things that I have been really, really excited and obsessed with, I think, in my whole life is basically success. My path has been one of achievement, for better or for worse. I'm a bit of a rebel, and I really wanted to prove to both my parents, who were physicians, that I could achieve success by going about things in my own way rather than the standard way. And I have basically learned a few things along the way. First of all, that success, 80% of success is mindset. 10% of success is really tactics and that kind of thing. And the other 10% is really just our ability to continue to get up every time that we are falling down. So it also means that without implementation, nothing works. So we can know all kinds of things, and without implementing the information, we'll never get anywhere. So you're on the right place. You're here. If you're here and you're here in the right place, if you're actually feeling a little overwhelmed with life or your business, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels, you're not getting the results that you want, you're feeling like you have lackluster results, or you're overworking, under-earning, feeling a little bit like lack of focus, distraction, and feeling a little bit burnt out or confused. And maybe you're not feeling all of those things, but you're working really hard and your calendar is still empty and your wallet's still empty. And I really want to say, please don't despair. We will help you address this. Interestingly, I think that we struggle the most because sometimes we want to do good in the world. So I'm saying you're in the perfect place if you're here because you actually want to help people rather than just make a lot of money. And, there's all of these things that are piling up that are feeling like, oh, how am I going to deal with all this stuff? And if you know that you are actually capable of achieving so much more than what you are currently doing, so that you inherently know that there's like something bigger and better inside of you, that you have this potential, this unlimited potential that you want to fully unlock that you haven't quite. gotten there. And if you want to make more money, have more influence, I will show you that if you take a few steps, you can actually improve and get a handle on your life. So my intention for you is that I want you to find ease and flow in your business, in your life. I want you to upgrade your ability to actually take your business and your life to that next level, and to really help you unlock that key to unlimited focus, productivity, and abundance, and inspire you to see what is truly possible. It's interesting because without the ability for us to focus, there is very, very little that we might be able to do and accomplish in life. And so it is one of those pieces that you might know a lot and you might have a lot of resources, and unless you are actually utilizing them and you're able to truly focus, nothing really happens. And then that becomes really, really, really frustrating. So why should you listen to me? Well, it's interesting because I think that the things that we need to learn are usually the things that we need to teach are usually the things that we've had to learn, or the things that we've had to struggle with, right? And so I hope that it's okay for me to share a little bit about me. Is that okay? I am a high performance psychologist and an intuitive business mentor. I'm basically an alchemist that help people transform from ordinary to extraordinary, both in their businesses and in life. And how I got to doing this is because in my life, I really have had so much struggle, and so much of that struggle has been within my own self. And so I feel like I've been on a path of mastery for many, many, many years. And also I wanted to be able to learn it and understand what success truly meant. I shared a little bit about wanting to be a rebel. And so when I was 6 years old, I walked into I was walking to the kitchen, and I heard my parents arguing, or what felt like they were arguing. They weren't arguing, but they were discussing really bitterly. And of course, instead of leaving, I just was too curious, and I squatted down and I, listened. And I heard my father bitterly, bitterly complaining about his job and how much he hated it. And I was only 6. I didn't understand what a job was or anything like that. But at that age, I made a vow with myself that I would never do anything that I hated. And so that really kind of set me on a course to really live life at the fullest with lots of passion, and at the same time having sort of the pressure of my parents being physicians and knowing that I needed to prove that I was going to be able to do that. Is part of the reason that kind of put me on a path of achievement. I was a ballerina in my first career. I was a professional ballerina, and so I became really, really obsessed with peak performance and finding flow. And I understood that it was focus that allowed us to do all kinds of things. And it was really my training that allowed me to understand how we change from doing things every single day. Interestingly, of course, I became a psychologist. I built a really successful practice. And about 5 years ago, I was rushing around. I was, really busy trying to deal with everything else. And I slipped and I fell, and I had a compound fracture and complete dislocation that required emergency surgery. And a year later, I developed a terrible condition that required surgery on both my legs. And so basically, I spent about 3 years completely disabled. And during that time, I had a lot of time to think. And that was when I kind of realized time is actually our most precious resource. We think about money as being really, we value money like it's our most precious resource, but it's actually time. And it sort of reattuned me to doing some of the things that I'm doing now, because it made me realize, is this all there is? Or is there something else that I need to be doing? And of course, that set me on a path of continuing to grow myself and expand myself. And this is me and my beautiful partner, and now me being able to actually perform on the silks. So I share with you some of this journey partly because I want you to know that it's not just that I struggled with focus and productivity. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was in my PhD, but I had struggled with it my whole life. And so I had been really trying to find, like, how do I maximize my productivity? How do I get more focused? How do I get to do what I need to do? And but it was actually 5 years ago when all of this happened that made me realize, like, wow, like, this is not just about me. This is not just about people with ADHD. This is really about what's happening in our world and how we are losing touch with ourselves, how we're losing touch with our mission, and how we are like really falling short of the things that we are really meant to do in here. And so I'm curious if you resonate with any part of my story, and I'd love to hear this. You know, it's interesting because I think I've worked now with like hundreds, maybe thousands of performers and athletes and speakers and CEOs, and it doesn't really matter what you do. The reality of it is that we are all being taxed in a new way. And thank you, Joseph, for letting me know. We're all taxed in a new way, and we're all sort of like a little bit like, what's happening? You know, I'm really just trying to juggle everything. So I'm just really excited. Let's dive in, shall we? So I'm going to start with the 3 trends, and I'm going to go backwards from 3 to 1. So we're going to start with the third, and then we're going to go to the first. And let me take a drink of water. And one of the things that I see, you know, and of course I'll share as much as I can in the time that we have, and then I'll let you know how you can work with me a little bit deeper and how you can get into this a little bit further and a lot deeper, so that you can really maximize your productivity and your performance. So the first trend that I see is something that I have now called tactical hell. So what exactly is tactical hell? Well, it's something that I see, it's a trend that I see in our industry that is actually destroying, that I think is destroying businesses. It's destroying, it's causing early entrepreneurs to lose their businesses and or stay in confusion for a really, really long time. And again, I mean, I'm talking about entrepreneurs, but I'm seeing it in many fields. So it might not just be that as an entrepreneur, but it might be as a professional. It's like, there's this new thing that you need to learn. There's this new technique. There is this new tactic, right? So there's a new guru that appears on the market that tells you, like, you need to do this. This is going to change your business. It's going to help you make millions. You must learn it now. If you don't learn it now, then you know, your business is going to go to the ground. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I know. I hope you know that I'm just poking fun, but I think that you probably have experienced this. I know that I certainly have, and so partly, and this comes from this assumption and this thing that we have learned, that knowledge is power. And so we think knowledge is power. We need to learn more. We need to know more, because in order for us to have the power, we need to know more. And I don't have anything against knowing more. Actually, you know, I am a lifelong learner. I think that we need to all be lifelong learners. I think it's just how we are learning that impacts really what we need to be doing. So when we all of a sudden have all of these people talking to us, telling us, you absolutely need this, this is what you need, we start getting into a system overload, because there are just too many distractions. And of course, we have not just you have to learn this new tactic, but there's the email and the phone and the, you know, social media and blah, blah, blah. And you can see this. And it's sort of like, okay, so what do I tend to first, right? And there's all kinds of systems and things that people have created to say, like, okay, well, this is how you make decisions about what you do first, and then you do the next, and then blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's like, we are all in some ways in system overload, right? And we're just kind of trying to keep our head above water. So, um, so you can see that I know that I have, and I am curious if you're here, if this is something that you've experienced, where all of a sudden you say like, oh my gosh, I think I need to do this. I think I need to do this. And all of a sudden we spend all this money, and now we have like, we're now more overwhelmed by this new tactic or this new thing that we're now not able to fully consume, not able to fully integrate. And so now we're actually not feeling better and more successful, but on the contrary, we are feeling more overwhelmed and more confused. And now we have all of the judgment and self-deprecation that comes along with like, well, I spent all this money and I didn't do this thing and it's not really working for me and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if this is something that you have experienced. I know that I have. And partly our brains are a little bit like, you know, a complex highway system. Okay, and so our brains are meant to process information in the most effective and efficient way, meaning that a lot of times our brains will continue to do the same things in the same way, even if they're ineffective, just because it seems faster, right? So one of the things that I talk about is how our brains function is through synaptic connections. Is through the conversation, the communication, and the connections that we make from from some things to the next. So if I say apples, bananas, oranges, you know that immediately those things belong to the fruit category. And then if all of a sudden I say green peppers and mushrooms, then that was going to go to the, you know, vegetable category. And that's something that is just so ingrained in our brains, like we totally can recognize that really quickly. However, when we are learning something new where there is no previous container, right, all of a sudden our brains are like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? What do I do with this? I don't know where to put this thing, right? Because this is a new piece of information. And in some ways, it's really helpful for us to do that because now it forces our brain to expand, to create a new container, and to expand its capacity. However, when we're doing that regularly and constantly, all of a sudden, there's all these things running around that have no place. And all of a sudden, our brains are totally cluttered with stuff, and we're not really able to process information very effectively. So, of course, it's not your fault. The biggest enemy that we have, in my opinion, right now is distraction. We have external distractors like all of the devices that I mentioned, people and our environment, but also internal distractions. Thoughts that we have, all of the shoulds and should nots, and all of the belief systems that have been installed, any kind of images that we get, and then impulses about, you know, and unfortunately, all of this stuff basically leads to what I call analysis paralysis. Because the sad truth is that research has now confirmed that we have the attention span of a goldfish. Pretty sad, which is only 8 seconds of attention before we lose it. So you remember I said, write down your aha moments or type them in or take notes. Okay, so I'm just calling out, are you taking notes? Are you beginning to kind of space out? Just notice, right? Because again, our attention kind of does that, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, yes, thank you, right? And so a lot of times we need to recognize that there is all of this stuff that's happening. And why does it matter? Well, unfortunately, in the extreme, this is the reason why so many business owners and professionals end up under-earning, burnt out, overwhelmed, and underperforming, because they are so busy trying to learn all of the new strategies, all of the new techniques. They never really have the time to implement what they have learned. And before they're implementing, there's like a new thing that's showing up and saying, now you need to do this. So ultimately, this is one of the biggest things that can lead to people totally ending up losing their business. And because all of a sudden you're trying to do way too many things at once. I thought this is kind of funny, you know, it's says, hey, guardian angels, why are you letting so many cool people die lately? What's going on? And then they're all on their phones. And it says, wait, what? Okay, hold on, let me send this text. And this is actually sadly what's happening to our society. This is what's happening to all of us. I'm not including any information about the increase in traffic accidents that are due to distraction and texting, and even pedestrian accidents. So currently, then, attention happens to be then our most valuable currency. And think about this, whenever you are spending time with your family or your loved ones, are you actually spending time with them? Are you doing things together and you're being present with them? Or are you sort of hanging out together, but you're all, attached to your phone? So it's so sad. Like, I've seen families going out to dinner, and I was heartbroken. I saw this family where like the two kids are like talking to the parents, right? Like they're like talking to the parents, and both parents are literally on their phone. So these kids are talking and the parents are on the phone. And so it's really, really sad, because if that's how we're parenting and how we're doing everything else, then we are certainly not even by a little, being our best selves, because we can't be our best selves unless we are giving our full attention to what we're doing. So what can you do? So I want you to minimize distractions. Use timers. You block out social media. There are a ton of different apps out there where you can use to block out social media. You can turn off the notifications, silence your phones, set reminders, really slowing down, setting timers to take deep breaths. I use this little timer, and then I use other kitchen timers. And a lot of times, one of the techniques, and I didn't write it down, is I put little stickers on places to remind me to just like slow down and take a deep breath. Because as you notice, just 2 breaths like made a huge difference. I also suggest that you study with one mentor at a time, and take the time to really understand their system and their method. And then when you're feeling tempted to do something, connect to your intuition and make decisions from a more aligned place, and ask, is this something that I actually need right now? Or is this something that I'm going to need later? Because if the answer is, this is something that I'm going to need later, then don't buy it now. It doesn't matter what it is that they say. And I'm saying this even though, I will be sharing something about a pretty awesome program that we have and that we're starting. I'm telling you right now, if you don't take the time to really absorb the thing that you are working on at the moment, the opportunities are going to come later. Yes, you might spend more money, but right now, your attention and your time is more valuable than your money. And I think that this is a concept that it's going to take us probably a little bit to really fully take in and understand, but recognize that your time is more valuable than your money. And so if you have to pay more money later for something that you're going to need later, buy it later. If there's something that you actually need to learn right now, because this is the thing that you're needing to learn at this moment, or this is the thing that's going to up level you to really be able to do everything else that you need to do, because it's going to set the foundation, then by all means stretch yourself and then invest into that, and fully invest, not just financially, but with effort and attention, etc. Great. I love that, Joseph. It says something that supports me right now or will support me in the future. That's your aha moment. Love it. Love it. And then really take the time to focus on implementing. Plot out the time to complete the trainings in your calendar. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this, but I'm going to say this today. Things usually don't happen. I'm not a big fan of to-do lists, even though I do make them. But things usually won't happen unless they are put into your calendar. And so make time in your calendar to do the stuff. So if you enroll in a program, and in fact, when we enroll people into our Quantum Brain Reboot program, we have a whole session where we say, okay, where in your schedule do you think that you're going to be doing this? where can we start building a habit for you to be able to start doing these trainings? Because unless it is plotted out into your calendar, it is not going to happen. And so really making sure, does this make sense? I hope that this is making sense. And so I'd love for you to kind of maybe put in the chat, what is the one thing that you want to implement? So Joseph, I love that you said, okay, great, this is my aha moment. I'm just really going to tune in and listen to, like, is this something that I need right now? Or is this something that I'm going to need later on, right? So, and I'm going to just say one more thing about this stuff. And because I'm going to try not to do a big soapbox, but I've had so many clients that have come to me that have Infusionsoft. And it's almost like I'm going into I don't have anything against Infusionsoft in particular, but I have counseled so many people to stop Infusionsoft because their businesses are not at a place where they need it. And so they're now spending all of this money and all of this time trying to understand a system that they don't need yet, right? So get the system that you're going to need today and the next 6 months or even the next year. If you know that you're going to grow later, you can switch systems. God knows I'm doing it right now. And yes, it's a pain in the butt, but at the same time, it's like switch when you need it. Don't switch ahead of time because now you're just creating a lot more work. Okay. So the second dangerous trend that I see, and again, would love to see what your aha moments or what it is that you want to implement from those things, is that the second dangerous trend that I'm really seeing for people is poor energy management. And what I mean by this is that somehow, because I think that we are in this hamster wheel and feeling so much pressure to perform, we are actually sacrificing ourselves in the process. So of course, if you haven't downloaded my guide, there's the URL once again so that you can download it. I'm going to take a little sip. Those of you that have, then this is going to be a little bit of a review. But the reality of it is that we are so committed to delivering great value and results to our clients, to really learning and growing ourselves. And often we're overextending ourselves in all kinds of ways. Now, I am somebody that it's all about stretching and stretching yourself and getting uncomfortable, because I believe that it's in the stretch and in the discomfort that we truly, truly grow. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't stretch yourself, but I am saying that there is a point of stretch and then a point of where you totally are putting yourself last, and then all of a sudden you are not able to really do what you need to. I was actually having a conversation with my father last night, and he was saying something to me. He said, I'm realizing that energy is really so important. It's one of the most important things, because it doesn't matter how many good ideas that you have. It doesn't matter how great the intentions are that you have. If you don't have the physical energy to do it, and you're like so tired or fatigued or sick, like you just cannot make it happen. You cannot do it. And it's so frustrating. And so I'm sharing this because, one of the things that I talk about is that we have like 4 different kinds of energy that we need to learn to catalyze and utilize effectively. And of course, the first one is spiritual intense energy, which is intensity. And this is really just our alignment, our flow. During our program, this is really a module about purpose and passion and learning how to connect to your intuition and learning how to listen to your intuition so that you're actually making decisions that are best for you and based on your best outcome rather than what everybody else is telling you. It is really the place where you just totally like plug into source. And, I often talk about we don't need motivation. We need inspiration, because motivation is the thing that I need to clean the bathroom. Motivation is the thing that we need to do stuff that we don't like. Inspiration is really what we need to be able to like get totally on fired and fueled to do the stuff that we are here to do. The next is emotional energy, which is the quality of our energy. And this is really like basically how positive or negative it is. We now have all kinds of great research that basically tell us about the energetic quality of different emotions, and what emotions are at the highest vibration. And so this whole module is really, I'm kind of giving you this this tiny little sprinkle, but it's really about learning how to manage your the quality of your energy, so that the environment, other people, other circumstances are not hijacking you and impacting you, so that you are fully in control. And can you imagine what happens when you are totally fully in control of your emotional energy, so that nobody can make you mad, nobody can make you anything? We have this saying, it's like, you made me. I'm like, not really. Like, people do stuff, and certainly people do stuff, and life happens, and we still get to have a choice of how we are going to feel and how we're going to respond. Then of course we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff on mental energy, which is focus, and this is a huge part of the stuff that we're talking about today. And then physical energy, which is quantity. And this is one of the things that I tend to see people really struggle with, because all of a sudden we skimp on our sleep, we skimp on the kind of nutrition that we're having, our hydration, all of the physical activity, all of the things that we know are helpful to help us to really maximize our body as a machinery, so that we can show up at our best. And so interestingly, it's really beginning to recognize that we are functioning as an integrated whole, right? Like, we can't make our bodies and our brains do stuff when we are not really taking really good care of our bodies. So, and some of the consequences of this is that it really impacts our working memory capacity when we're not taking care of this. I'm going to talk a lot about working memory. Working memory, just to give you just a little quick intro, it's like the RAM of your computer, right? Is what allow us to process all of the information and all of the stuff that's coming at us really quickly. And so what happens when the RAM of your computer is kind of low, it makes your computer crash, right? So it's the same thing for us. It impacts our decision to make quick. It makes our, well, hello. It impacts your ability to make quick decisions. And it's interesting, because then we feel disorganized, we get headaches, we don't have enough energy. It lowers our vibration, our motivation. We might be tired and sleepy, our performance might decrease, and then we are seeing basically lackluster results. We're not seeing the consistent action that we want to see. We're not persevering, and it increases our emotionality. So I don't know how many of you have had an example where maybe you didn't sleep enough, or you were really hungry, or any of you get hungry. Any of you get hangry? I am somebody that gets hangry. And so for me, like, nutrition is so important. And whenever I have not fueled myself in the proper way, I experience all kinds of negative consequences. And the thing of it is that it actually has like massive consequences. I had this client, Cindy, who would like struggle with her sleep. She wouldn't even want to get up from her desk to go to the bathroom, because it was like taking too much time, and she felt like she was so busy and she needed to. And so she was developing urinary tract infections. And then she wasn't drinking enough water, because she would be like, oh, I forgot, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually she had a major gallstone that she needed to have surgery for. And so then that like took her out for like an entire week. And so if you think about all of the things that we do because we think that we don't have time, that we want to like finish something or do something, and then how we are not managing ourselves and our energy, and then the consequences in the long run then are so massive, right? Because then, you know, if you take a few minutes, a half an hour or an hour for you to take care of you every single day versus, you know, you being out for a week or a month, or, you know, how would that impact your business, or how would that impact your earning potential or your ability to produce and create the things that you're excited about creating, right? So again, ultimately, it's not just costing us time, it's costing us energy and our health, which, you know, it's probably one of the most valuable things that we do. I know that I'm going to probably butcher this. I tend to do this with quotes, but there was this beautiful quote that the Dalai Lama said something about, like, I don't understand why is it that everybody spends all of their youth and all of their health um, trying to make money and overworking trying to make money, and then they spend all of their money trying to regain health in their later years. And that really, really hit me, especially because, I had this major health crisis, and at a pretty early age. And it made me really recognize like how important it is that we take care of our bodies as we are furthering our missions and our messages and our businesses and all of those things. So a few things that you can do, obviously, is sleep and proper nutrition and physical activity, noticing natural times when you're more focused, and adjust your work to them. This is really, really important, because we all tend to think that we need to do whatever it is that the guru say, and everybody says like you need to wake up really early and then have this like fantastic morning routine, and then blah blah blah, and that works for a lot of people, and I totally am and I am an advocate of it. And there are some people that doesn't work. And so in some ways, I want you to sort of start noticing and tuning into the wisdom of your body to see what actually works for you. I have tried that, and I tried that for years and years and years. And then I would like wake up and drag myself out of bed like super early and do all this stuff. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then I'd sit, and then like my brain was literally like, duh. My partner teases me that my IQ drops 20 points in the morning. And like my brain is just not totally on in the morning, but like you catch me at night and I'm like, you can't stop my creative flow. Like everything I write, I usually write at night. And so really learning when those natural times are, and then adjust your schedule so that you are working at maximizing those times. Establishing routines and schedules, and we'll talk, a bunch about that during our program. But again, it's sort of like if you don't put something into your calendar, it's not going to get done. If you don't establish a routine and a schedule for your life, how you run your life, everything is going to be like all over the place all the time, and you're always going to feel like you're trying to catch up with stuff. Does that make sense? Take time for you. Take time to spend in nature, engage in creative activities. I feel like we don't do enough creative things, and that creativity is one of the things that we really need more than anything else. One of the suggestions that I make is that you start with the new strategy first. So a lot of times when people hear this, they're like, great, I'm going to do da, 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 da. And I'm like, I'm always a little cautious when people say like, I'm going to do all these things, because it can set you up for failure, basically. If you try, it's again like trying to learn too many things at once. If you are trying to change everything in your life all at the same time, I'm going to go on a new diet, and I'm going to start a new exercise program, and I'm going to start waking up early and then meditating every day. And, like they're all fantastic things, and they're all things that I strongly encourage, but trying to do them all at once kind of land us in the same pool. So start with one new strategy and tie it to a part of your routine that is really well learned until that becomes routine. Does that make sense? So for instance, when I first decided that I committed to having meditation as part of my life, and that it was something that I absolutely needed to do every single day, I played around with it until I figured out that I needed to make it like it needed to happen immediately after I wake up. And so now I have this little tiny routine, and we have this entire routine of what each of us does when we first wake up. And for me, it's meditating. And once that's tied to our routine and that becomes part of your routine, then it's easy. It becomes a non-negotiable. It becomes an intuitive process, and you're not having to think about it. And when that happens, then you are then ready to try a new thing and add a new thing. Okay? So let me know, what is it? Put in the chat, what is it that you are going to implement? What new thing you feel like would be worthwhile for you to add and implement? Because that would be really, really fantastic. I'd love to hear how you are, again, taking some of this information and implementing it into your life. I don't want to be cluttered, right? Um, so ready for that first dangerous trend? So that first dangerous trend is that we're actually operating on an outdated operating system. And you're probably going to be like, huh? What does that mean? Well, you know that we're bombarded by thousands of distractions each day. In fact, meditation, awesome. And basically every time that we are distracted, we lose about 25 minutes. I call it herding cats because in some ways, if I'm really focused on something and then I get distracted, you can't get to that same level of flow right away. It's like you start kind of gathering yourself back up until you finally find the track, and then, right? So it takes that long for our brains to readjust. So what's funny is that we upgrade our cars, our washing machines, our computers, and then we keep moving through this very quickly moving world with the same brain. So really, our brain needs to be upgraded. Our brain needs to be rebooted. And up until now, we haven't done that because nobody really knew how can we, right? Like we think, okay, so we're born with however many, million brain cells, and that's all there is. Well, we have now begun to understand the brain a lot better and began to come up with more elegant ways to be able to optimize our brain and our system. And so in some ways, we need to reboot our brain. We need to optimize our brain so that it's able to keep up with all of the demands and distractions of the new world that we have entered in. The system that regulates many of these cognitive processes, being able to sort out all of the information, being able to make quick decisions, being able to block out distractions and help us get into that state of flow and high performance is working memory. So like I said, working memory is like the RAM memory in our computer, right? So if you think about if the RAM of your computer is full or pretty full, would uploading a fancy new program into your computer or fancy new apps or new pictures, would that help it? Or will it make your computer crash? Right? Like it's gonna make your computer crash because your computer is already telling you that the RAM memory is full and it's crashing because it cannot take any new information. It's actually gonna make it run slower and or will cause more crashes. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning, and what's happening to our brains is that we are trying to install new programs. We're trying to get more information, but we haven't actually upgraded the RAM memory of our computer to be able to take those in and actually make them work for us. So working memory is what holds on to the information that we're attending to. Okay, it is related to, I will describe a little bit more and share what attention, concentration, and focus are. These are three words that are kind of used interchangeably, and they are related to each other, but they're not the exact same word. Okay, they're all regulated by working memory, which is all happening right here in the frontal lobe. Interestingly, the frontal lobe is the last part of our brain to develop, and as you know, well, some of you, I don't know how this is in Malaysia, Joseph, or in England, but in the States, people can't rent cars. You can't get a car rental until you're about 26. And the reason for that being is that it's actually once you are 26 that the brain is fully developed. And so car rental companies were able to do all this research and recognize that until then, there was a higher incidence of accidents because obviously the brain wasn't fully developed and working at our best. And this is the area that is basically responsible for executive functioning. A lot of times we have referred to this area of the brain as the little angel that sits in our shoulder rather than the little devil. So that's, I'm just giving you different analysis. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And it's basically the CEO of the brain, right? Is what regulates the highest level brain processes. And really, and this is really why adolescence and young adulthood is wrought with so much turmoil, because we don't have our brain fully developed to make all the best decisions. And so we make a lot of impulsive, dumb decisions. You know, our devil's super active, going like, yeah, do. And then the little angel's like still kind of sleepy and not quite totally awake to know. It makes me laugh. It reminds me of a conversation. I was really young. I don't remember how old I was, but I was really young, like 6 or 7 or something. And I was going to somebody's house, and my mother sat me down and she said, "Okay, Elena, promise me that you're going to be very judicious, you know?" And I said, "Okay, Mom, I promise I'm going to be very judicious." And then I'm like, "Mom, what's judicious?" And so it was like I was promising something, but I had no idea what it is that she was asking me to do, you know. Anyway, Sophie, you said you don't think it's the case in London, but car insurance is higher for under 25. Okay. So again, you know, that they're using some of the brain research information to say, okay, we can't really fully trust people under 25 because we know that their brains are not fully developed, so that they're not operating at their maximum capacity. Now, it doesn't mean to say that we can't actually train our brains to operate better. And so, and this is actually where, you know, what I'm super passionate about. Right. So I want to give you some key definitions because I think that this is important, like how we kind of run through all this stuff and yet. So focus is being able to have a narrowed attention on a particular stimuli. So it's actually being able to like take one thing like this and really focus your attention on that. Like right now, hopefully you are just focusing your attention on, you know, the slide or perhaps my voice, and maybe taking notes. And that's like the one thing at a time. Attention is actually the focus that we have on the present moment or the task at hand, and then being able to block any other internal or external distractions. So again, we get distracted both externally and internally. Externally, it could be like sounds or other people or that kind of thing. But internally, you know, which if you're a creative person, a lot of times it's our internal distractions that are getting us a lot more like, oh, I have this great idea, or I need to go do this, or I need to attend to that, or I forgot to touch that, you know, those kinds of things. And then concentration is actually the ability to focus on what's appropriate in a given situation, and then to control the response to execute a task. So let's just say that if you are working on a particular presentation, for instance, then the task at hand at that moment would be like taking care of that. It wouldn't be like attending to like the Facebook notifications or the email notifications or the phone ringing or any of those things. It would be to attending to that particular task. Now, if you are actually like on Facebook talking to somebody or doing something there, then that is actually the thing that that you're going to be attending to. I tend to think about this, especially in regards to if you are if you're an athlete and all of a sudden you're having to pay attention to like who you're blocking and also where the ball's going, right? And so you need to be able to have the ability to focus on the appropriate cues. And that means that you might need to actually be switching through different quadrants. And that kind of goes to the attentional style. So we each have basically 4 types of attentional styles: narrow, internal, one thing, narrow, and internal something, you know, thought, feeling, sensation. Narrow, external, we're focusing on one thing outside of us. Broad, internal, noticing everything that's going on inside of us. Broad, external. And sometimes I think about this like when we walk into somebody's house, you know, when you go to somebody's house for the first time for a party, what's your way of kind of going into that situation? Are you somebody that like goes in and it's like, where's the kitchen or where's the bathroom, right? Like that would be a total like narrow external. Or are you somebody that's like, or where's my good friend, right? Or are you somebody that's sort of scanning and trying to take everything in and trying to kind of see where people are and where's the food and where the bathroom is and noticing the paintings and like all of the stuff? You're just kind of trying to take everything in, right? Or are you like kind of being like, wow, I'm really hungry, or like it's really chilly in here, or just kind of having thoughts about like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can like deal with being in this party, like I'm feeling really anxious and I don't know the host and right? So again, I'm just kind of giving you an example of kind of how this attentional style shows up. We all have a preferred style, but part of being able to concentrate and be effective at our performance is our ability to actually master all 4 styles and then being able to switch between them in an effective fashion. So again, why does working memory matter? I mean, you know, why am I spending all this time talking to you about this? Well, when our working memory capacity is overloaded, we tend to be fairly disorganized. We get distractible and struggle with inattention. We have lack of planning or follow through. We misplace things. We forget things. We sometimes are impulsive in decision making, and then we're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't think about blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you forget what you're told. It's kind of funny because I think, so I'll share something really private, which is kind of funny. Before my husband and I did this training, we used to get into these little petty arguments all the time about like, I would say something and then he'd be like, uh-huh. And then like afterwards he wouldn't do it or he'd forget. And I said, I told you. And he'd be like, you never told me. I'm like, I told you. And it was like a he said, she said kind of thing. And it was because we were forgetting what we were being told. And so this has stopped a long time. So it's kind of cool to just remember like, oh, that doesn't happen anymore. We get overwhelmed a lot easier. We have difficulty following multi-step directions, or the moment that there's multi-step directions, all of a sudden we're like big glaze, like, right? It also causes us to be more emotionally reactive or having more difficulty controlling our emotions, because of course, when we're overwhelmed, there's a lot less space really for us to be able to then monitor our own emotional responses and to be able to regulate those. We procrastinate, we tend to give up. And this is something that I see so much, this lack of sustained effort or difficulty following through or switching tasks before they're finished. I would say these last 3 things are probably one of the most important things that I see people doing that are responsible for failure, right? So if you can't maintain sustained effort, if you cannot follow through on something that you started or you switch before you finish, or you do something and then that doesn't work really good and you're like, okay, well, that didn't work, throw it out, I'm going to start new. That's part of the reason that you might feel like you're spinning your wheels and starting new and not really getting the results that you want. Okay, so again, working memory is really what is responsible for all of these higher order processes and helping us stay focused, helping us be more productive and present with our life. Now, one of the things that's really, really exciting for me is this idea of neuroplasticity. So if you've never heard about it, it's basically our ability to reshape and improve our brain potential, our working memory, and our synaptic connections when we establish new pathways. Back in the old days, we didn't think that we could do. Now we recognize that the brain is like a muscle. So just like your bicep or any other muscle in your body, your brain has the ability to expand the more that we work it. And of course, we need to work it in the right way. But when we are able to really work our brains, they have the opportunity to expand and again, improve. So before I go a little bit too much into that, I want to give you these are 4 things that you can do to increase focus, okay? And they're like just simple things. 1, focus on what's positive.
Many of my clients hear me talk about this all the time, and I always say, what you focus on is what grows. And so if you are not, if you want something to improve, to grow, to expand, you want to focus on it. So notice what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on all of the ways in which you're falling short, all of the failures, all of the things that you're struggling with? Because then you might actually then be bringing more of that. Or are you focusing on your successes and focusing on being grateful and focusing on what is going well, and then actually attracting more of that? The second piece is focusing on process. A lot of times in our life, overall, I think that we are so focused on results. And don't get me wrong, results are absolutely great. But when we put all of our emphasis on the result, we create a lot of internal pressure. And all of a sudden, we dismiss the process. And the process is about being fully prepared, present from the beginning to the end. When you stay focused on the process, then you're able to learn and grow as you are going. And rather than continuing to compare to the result. Focusing on the present, and these things are interrelated, right? Like the here and the now. There are two things that get in the way for us to staying really focused and finding that like mind, like water concentration that allows us to get into this beautiful state of flow. Okay, and that is anxiety and perfectionism or judgment. Okay, so anxiety is usually about us being focused on the future. Something in the future is causing fear and anxiety. Perfectionism and judgment is usually focused on the past, judging something that we have done. So when we stay focused on the present, in the here and now, and the experience of what we are doing, focused on the process, we tend to be able to let go of those things and really unlock our potential of really getting into a state of flow. And then the last one is focus on the progress, focusing on improvement rather than the deficit. And again, this is something that societally we tend to think of like, well, we're not here yet. And so we keep focusing on all of the ways in which we're falling short instead of focusing on like, hey, I've actually improved, I'm improving, I'm growing, I'm learning. This is how things are getting better and better for me. I'm gonna just kind of share one of my third book collaboration was just published this week, and the whole book is called Find Your Flow, and you can find it on Amazon. It's I think a third, it's one of the third sequences of a series, and I loved writing the chapter because I totally got into flow, talking about flow, which is so related to this. Is that we can't really get into that state of flow and peak performance unless we really learn how to unlock and optimize our ability to attend and focus. And so, so if you're interested in knowing a little bit more, it's only 99 cents on Kindle, so you can go find it. So the keys to rewiring this attention is committing to a daily meditation practice. Okay, there are so many studies now that have really, I love it, that have really confirmed what we've always known. This was actually one of the secret weapons. These were some of the things that we used to teach aspiring Olympians that would give them the edge, is learning how to meditate and how to control their attention, because it is about entering into an altered state of consciousness, meditation, and so is flow. Flow is an altered state of consciousness. Meditation is an altered state of consciousness. And so the more that we meditate, the more that we're able to establish those pathways, those synaptic pathways, to make it easier to get into that state, and to make it easier to get into that state when you are engaging in things that you enjoy. Start with I would say start with 5 minutes a day, and then increase to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, just by increasing 1 minute each week, so that it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is like getting really hard right away. Just slowing down, paying attention. What I mean by talking out loud is sometimes we need to give ourselves instruction, and sometimes doing it out loud may be helpful. I think that a lot of times we get embarrassed about wanting to do that. And the reality of it is that, do what works. It's what I believe. Create internal routines and internal boundaries, creating information dump sites. And that is basically just creating a place next to you or I love Evernote. And so this is an app that I use all the time. I have, I don't know how many notebooks. And so every time that I have like great ideas or I feel like I'm getting like the flow of a particular book or blog or whatever, if I have the time, I will take a few minutes and then just like deposit it into there. And then I'll go back to doing the exact thing that I need to do. Or if I'm feeling like, oh, I need to go do this thing or I need to call blah, 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 I just like write it down really quickly and then I go back to what I'm doing. And so what that does is that it allows your brain to relax so that your memory is not working all the time. It's like running the antivirus on your computer. And you now have it in a place that you know that you'll be able to access later. Okay. So of course, why it doesn't matter is that without it, we're going to keep running around like crazy people and we're going to keep feeling overwhelmed and not seeing the results that we want in our life and in our business and in our relationships. And, I love this little infographic just because it looked like a brain. These are all great strategies to use, but it also it's a little bit overwhelming to think about like, okay, so there's a lot of things that we can do. And so again, you don't have to do them all. You need to start recognizing where do you want to start and start doing those things. Now, so what's responsible for our results? Altogether, it's the intensity of our energy, the quality, the quantity, focus and working memory, establishing systems, routines, and habits, our community, and then how we are evaluating all of those things. And community is so important because we're all like crabs. And so when we, before I go here, we're all like crabs. And so when we try to change or do something different, it's like people try to bring us down to where it was that we are. And so if you're like at the top of your group, then you probably want to be looking for a different group because otherwise you're just going to continue to stay at the level of the people that you're hanging around with and so on. This is where, powerful masterminds and finding mentors that will help you and push you and keep you accountable to keep growing are really, really important. Now, I wanted to kind of show a little bit like how does this distraction impact your bottom line? Partly because, I've talked about a lot of things and yes, attention and presence being our most valuable resource, but how does it actually impact your bottom line? Well, and these were sort of estimates based on what I hear from many of my clients, but it's like, let's just say that you go into the internet media time warp and you lost 45 extra minutes from whatever it is that you were planning on spending there. Any of you are like magicians and like magically disappear time when you go into Facebook or some other social media? I'm quite familiar with that. Or if you get interrupted or distracted and then taking you about 35 minutes to get back and refocus. Difficulty making decisions. And I put this 60 because this is such a big one, especially if you are, if you're a leader, an entrepreneur, if you are in charge of important things, because all of a sudden you feel really responsible for the decisions that you're making. And what I see is a lot of people, it's like, should I do this, should I do that? I'm going to, the pros and the cons, and then talking to different people and asking, what do you think? What do you think? And that just takes so much energy and so much effort and time. And that can all be resolved very, very easily and quickly when you're able to get super lined up and learn to listen to your intuition and use your intuition as a way to help you make those decisions, which is something that we really go into lots of depth into in our Quantum Brain Boot. Procrastination. So like all of a sudden when you have to do something, like who likes to like all of a sudden bake cookies and clean and, look at YouTube videos or whatever when you're about to do something really important. Ineffective focus. And what I mean by ineffective focus, this is when you are actually pushing past the time that you should push. And this is probably one of the things that I have struggled with and still gets me sometimes. It's the when I feel like I need to do this thing and I just need to stay and do it. But clearly you're needing to like rest or you're needing to go eat something or whatever, but you're not wanting to interrupt, and all of a sudden you're working, but you're not staying super effective at how you're working because your energy level is decreasing and you're needing to do something to increase your energy. Delayed reactions for something, when things happen and all of a sudden you're having to deal with all of that. And then time lost to frustration, looking for stuff. So a lot of times we lose things and then all of a sudden we're frustrated looking for where it is, or where can I find it, da da da. So I was actually kind of generous in thinking about this time just being a whole week. I'm sure that there's people that lose that time in a single day. But if this was in a whole week, that's 6.5 hours a week. And if we compute that a month, then that ends up being 25 and a half hours a month. Now, obviously, if this was a daily thing, then you would be at 126.66 hours a month that would have been lost to this, right? And so when I'm thinking about like the profit, the bottom line, so I computed this, like, let's just say that your hourly rate is $150, okay? Then that means that if you have lost 25.33 hours every month due to all these things, you would have lost 304 hours a year, which would equate to about $45,500. That's a lot of money that is being put down the drain, don't you think? Now, if you were wasting this time or losing this time daily, then you would actually be at a $228,000 a year. Well, so if you think about, like, if you could just improve these things, then how much more can your bottom line improve, right? So would improving focus and working memory increase your capacity to earn money and hold on to money because you're not spending it on dumb stuff that you think that you need to spend it on? Absolutely, right? So I'd love for you to write down where you're at, or to put in the chat, what are 3 takeaways, 3 things that you would want to implement right away? Because again, implementation is one of the most important pieces of this. Now, I'm going to keep going, but I'd like for you to write this down. Now, all of these things that I shared with you are going to work, okay? They totally work. There's a problem though, right? They take practice, they take time and consistency. And so I actually looked for all kinds of alternatives, because I know that the sad truth is that many of you are going to be like, oh my God, this is so great. I know what to do. And you're going to go and try to implement these things, right? Like here, you're going to be like, yes, I'm going to do meditation, blah, blah, blah. And there's still all those things kind of going to be, demanding for your attention. And then day by day, because there's nobody else like keeping you accountable or reminding you or instructing you about what's the next thing that you need to do, you're going to go back to your old ways. And of course, this is never you, because this is the extreme, but it's just an example, and again, I didn't say all of the accidents, but it's crazy. Because the reality is that in the absence of support and mentorship, environment takes over, no matter how much we want to change. Willpower is really a very limited resource, and it's very quickly depleted through our demanding world all the time. And so trying to add strategies to an already overloaded brain, it's like trying to add new programs on a computer whose RAM memory is full. And so soon enough, we are feeling overworked and not making enough and feeling burnt out again. So I think it's important for you to kind of recognize, I think this is a reality for all of us. And I'm gonna share a little bit about Bob. Bob is, and I changed the names obviously, but Bob is somebody that came to me and did a consultation with me, and he was an entrepreneur that was very overwhelmed and clearly needed quite a lot of help, and I knew I could help him. And he's a sad case for me, because I knew that I could help him. And back then, his answer was like, I can't afford it. And I just kind of allowed his excuse to be the thing that got in the way.
And I didn't stand for him. And as he left, I thought, like, there's somebody that I can really help and I can really change his life and his business. And I'm not going to be able to. So I was a little sad about that. And of course I had to get over, because, it was like, okay, well, I am not a fan of forcing people. I do believe in standing for people, but I'm not a fan of forcing people. And so of course I had to let it go. And then I ran into him about a year and a half later. And so I said, oh, hey, how's it going? How's your business? Blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, oh God, it's even hard to, every time that I remember it, he said, well, not so good. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, I had a really hard time getting a hold of everything and managing everything. And I lost my business. And in the process of losing my business, it was incredibly stressful on our relationship. And then my wife left me. So he lost his business, and then his wife left him. And so he was then just working at some job, and he said, I knew that I should have done this, and I didn't, and I lost it all. And it's just so sad for me to think about it, because I think that that's what happens to a lot of people. That's what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs that have like this passion and this thing that this message that they want to bring forth. And when they don't invest in the right things, then it can all go away. And it just broke my heart. So one of the things is that I actually searched really high and low. I wanted to figure out, being a peak performance psychologist, I knew that the brain could be trained. I knew that there had to be some way to make it more sustainable, that we could measure, that it would be more reliable. And so I looked for all kinds of programs. And why bother? Well, I didn't want to see people continue to struggle with the overwhelm, with the information overload, with the frustration, with feeling demoralized every time that they got lackluster results. And so I really researched high and low, because I thought, well, if you could just for a moment think about, like, what would it be possible for you, for your life and your business, if you could have these things resolved? Like, what would you be able to do if you could stay focused on what you need to do? If you were able to work effectively and efficiently and seamlessly, and not get pulled into the tactical hell or be doubting yourself, or if you were able to make all the decisions that you need to make and feel really confident and empowered of what you need to do, and to be able to also bounce back when things are not going well, deal with the frustration or deal with the dips that happen, and come back with renewed action and attention. What would it be like for you to have more of that financial and time freedom, because now you actually are able to see the results that you want to see in your life? It could totally change our lives, right? And I know that that can happen because it's happened to us. So if you want to hear what can solve it, one of the things that I actually was able to put together, and I'm super excited about this, is this program that I've called Quantum Brain Reboot. It actually has two main goals. First one is to upgrade your operating system by increasing your working memory capacity and neuroplasticity. So really addressing the problem at the root, right? Increasing our working memory, increasing our RAM memory, allowing our computer to work better, really getting a total upgrade. And then by installing new software that is really meant to unlock and unleash your unlimited potential for focus and productivity and achievement. So what can I do? It's going to increase your attention, concentration, and focus. It's going to increase organization and productivity, increase goal-directed behavior, increase frustration tolerance. What it means, like, you're going to be able to deal with frustrations much, much better and easier, be more clear, be able to make better decisions, and have just a greater sense of ease, enjoyment, and flow.
And of course, it's going to increase your working memory capacity, right? So there are two components of this program, and I'm gonna these are packaged all as a one program, but there are two parts of it. And if any of you is interested in only one part, feel free to, we can have a conversation about what would it be like to just do one part of this program. So how the program is delivered, the first part of it is a working memory training program. It's a research-based training program that's highly structured and intensive. It's of short duration, and it's adaptive. And what we mean by adaptive is that it is a little bit like a video game. And so if you've ever played video games, you know that you play a video game and then you sort of start beating it, right? Like, so you play it, and then it's hard, and then you get to a place where you beat it. Well, this is meant to adapt as your working memory capacity increases. So you get to be trained at the highest level. So you are challenged all the time that you're doing the training. It's super, super convenient and very, very flexible because you get to do it through the comfort of your own home. So So how this happens is that we have an initial assessment and an interview to evaluate whether you are going to be a good fit for this program or not. Then we, and this is really important, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, a little bit later about if it's for you or if it's not for you, because we have very, very stringent criteria as to this program. This is something that we are able to provide in partnership with our Integrative Wellness Center, because this is only available to licensed professionals. And so we have very stringent criteria of how we evaluate people that want to go through the program. It's not like any other program that you've done, because most people are happy to take your money and they don't care whether you do it or not. We are not like that. We really actually are very committed in seeing people finish and do the program. And there's all kinds of things that we have implemented to help people be able to finish this. And in some ways, we are also evaluated based on how you do. So we all are in it with you, so that we're committed to you actually doing it and finishing it. Then we have a startup session where we actually make the plan, where we structure the training for you. This is where we decide when are you gonna do it, when. The training is actually 6 weeks of a computer-based training program that happens 4 times a week for about an hour and a half each day. So again, this is not something that you are learning. This is actually a training. This is a cognitive brain training program that it's meant to expand your working memory capacity, your ability to focus and concentrate, and give you moment-to-moment feedback. And then you get weekly coaching calls to just check in to see, like, how is this going? Here's what are you struggling with? This is what you're seeing. We have a training web portal that you will have access to, where we all get to see, like the coach and you get to see how you're improving, and we get to know where you're struggling so that we can give you specific feedback about how to improve it. And then we have basically a wrap-up session where we summarize the training. We tell you what we're seeing, improving, not improving. You get to give us feedback. And one of the best things that I loved about this program is that within their protocol, they had a 6-month follow-up interview, which meant that they could really stand behind the results that they promised, because part of the protocol was having a 6-month follow-up to see, like, have you actually maintained? So all of this stuff is a permanent thing. It's not like it's only going to work while you're doing it, and then it is actually a permanent reboot, which is why it's so exciting to me. And the results that we've seen have been, like, really astounding. So, and then you get to have an extension training, which is about 100 short sessions over a 12-month period afterwards. And so, and what's fascinating is that we've had people go through just that part of the program that have said, wow, like I wasn't, I couldn't keep track of anything. I was missing appointments. I was double booking myself. I was, dropping the ball and all kinds of things. And now all of a sudden it's like, I feel like my brain's a lot more organized. I couldn't even remember a number. Like, if people gave me a number, I would be like, sometimes I'll like say, hi, how are you? And then people would tell me their name, and then I'd like immediately forgot. Like it was that bad. And that doesn't happen to me anymore. And in fact, a lot of times people get surprised that I remember their name so well. And it's like such a little thing. And then it's such an important thing because it's really about relationships. So the second part of the training is it's really where we get to get you in flow and on fire with installing this new software now that we have expanded this working memory capacity. And so we introduce you to this holistic approach of achieving high performance. We go in depth through the intensity of the spiritual energy, intuition, decision making, all of those kinds of things. We talk about how to manage your emotional energy, and there's all kinds of exercises and modules and ways for you to be able to practice this. Then we add some specific focus and mental energy exercises that are more applied and applicable to the work that you do. And then, like, how do you get to create the outcomes and the results that you desire in your life? We talk about systems, rituals, and habits in a much specific way, and how are all of these practices going to show up in your life, and how are you going to integrate them? And then we actually broaden it into like, what are some of the systems that you need to establish at work and at home, and those kinds of things. And then the evaluation and integration into this positive spiral of success. So the first part of the program is 6 weeks. The second part of the program is another 6 weeks, and we actually give you support for 8 weeks. So we have we have the modules, and then we have coaching calls, and those will go for about 8 weeks. So, and then you get obviously access to a private community where you get support, questions answered, and you get to learn from one another and get the support. Obviously, what's unique about it is that it's developed by neuroscientists, it's tested by neuroscientists, and administered via standard protocol that is, I don't want to say guaranteed, because I have things about guarantees, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but that it is meant to provide the maximum result, and that it's actually based on research. Most of the time people say, oh, the research, blah, 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 and then how the protocol is actually done is a totally different way. And so this is where, to me, it's valuable, like where the science and the, for me, where the science and the application really come in together. We really are training you at your capacity. So wherever your capacity is, it's going to adjust. So it's going to be hard. And most people, I often ask, how do you deal with frustration? Because you're going to really learn how to deal with frustration, because the training is going to max you out in some way, but not in a bad way. So it's going to challenge you, and it's going to help you recognize, like, wow, like all of the ways in which you may have given up when something got hard, and et cetera, et cetera. You're going to learn all of the tools, techniques, and strategies that I have been teaching, and me and my colleagues have been teaching our Olympic athletes, high-level performers, speakers, and top CEOs. And you will get access to all of that, and really have access to all of these methodologies that deliver permanent results. What's awesome about it too is that it's a bit of a hybrid program. It's an individualized one-on-one program with the group delivery. So the first part of it is very individualized, and then the second part of it is delivered in a group. So I wanted to quickly just show you an example of kind of the studies. And so this, I pulled out, and they've done lots of them, but I pulled one with people with ADHD. And just because I pulled them, just because I felt like they're the most extreme. And so they're a good example to kind of look at. And so we're looking at visual, spatial, working memory, verbal. And so there's 2 boxes, one because one was off meds, and then the red one was on meds, right? So, and so then this was what, like, before meds, with meds. This is the green box is immediately after the training. So immediately after the training, this is like the improvement that they all saw. And then the yellow was the improvement that they saw at the 6-month follow-up. So you could see that in some cases, there was actual an improvement even post the training. And in some cases, there's a little bit of a slight decrease. But even with the decrease, you know, the change from wherever they were, where they started and where they ended was pretty dramatic. And that was something that really was very compelling. Now, the investment for our individual clients is typically around $15,000, which of course is not what you're going to pay today because we're going to be doing it as a group. When we roll it out in a bigger way, what it's going to be, the first program is going to be $29.97 and the second program is going to be $19.97. Because this is the first time that we're actually putting them together and rolling out our second program as a group program. You're not going to be paying that today. So I want to tell you that we're also going to be including some pretty cool bonuses. We want to give you some guided meditations that will continue to train your brain through affirmations and visualizations, because we know that that's an important integral component. You will get to attend a live workshop with me it's a 4-hour workshop on manifesting your dreams and your visions and how you will get to like basically unleash all of your brilliance into the world in a major way. I'm doing it also with a really powerful healer that's going to do some healing and unlocking some of your blocks, and then really like lighting you on fire, basically, in a good way. And you're going to get to have access to our time mastery program, where you're going to really learn all of the strategies to manage your time, your calendar, your life, set healthy boundaries. We're also going to be giving you some brain boosting meal plans with recipes. And this might seem kind of odd, but because our physical bodies are so important, and my partner is actually an integrative nutrition and wellness coach, this is part of his area of genius. And I always say that he cooks gourmet cooking the lazy way. And so we're going to give you some of those recipes so that you are basically brain boosting nutritious meals. And then for the first 20 people that register, we're going to give you access to our Authentic Confidence program, which is like a flagship program that we do, where you're going to really get to tap into your inner superhero and really unleash your gifts into the world and feel unstoppable. It is the best supplement for high performance that we have. And we're going to be teaching you, there's all kinds of techniques and strategies that you get to learn on how to overcome fear and stretch yourself in an even bigger way and be really confident regardless of what you're doing. And then I'm also going to give you a ticket to my live retreat. It's Illuminate, where we actually going to deep dive and do implementation of, how do we get to become this high performing being in the world that we're living, and then how do we apply it to our businesses, to our lives, to our relationships. So the total value of the program is about $10,679. What your investment today would be is $24.97, which is like so low, given what many of our individual clients have paid and everything else that you will be getting today. And the best part of all is that you can actually get started for only $397, because this program is not going to be for everybody. And so I want to make it really clear that we also will have installments if that's something that you need. But I want you to kind of notice and take notice of this website, tinyurl/assessment-QBR. Because if you want to follow along with me, there's a little sales page that kind of outlines all of the stuff that I have just kind of talked to you about. And why is it that we're having you start at $397? Well, because this is not for everybody. So it's for you if you really are motivated and committed to diligently doing the trainings for the 6 weeks, and to train for 4 days a week for 6 weeks. If you really are ready to upgrade and optimize your brain while doing what it takes to get there. If you're finally ready to just be done with being stuck in overwhelm and overwork and want to find the ease and flow. And if you're really committed to unlock your unlimited potential to become productive, influential, and profitable. It's not for you if you are not able to commit to finishing all 6 weeks of training. And this is really, really important because, again, like I said, we're not somebody that we're just going to be happy to take your money and not have you do this. I really want to stand by this idea that information without implementation is clutter. I don't want to clutter your life. This is really a program that can completely transform your life and your brain because it starts from the root out, but you need to be committed to doing the training. If you're stuck in the victim stories and making excuses, or if you're not willing to put forth the effort that it's going to take to really upgrade and optimize your brain. And of course, if you don't want to be amongst the first few people that are actually learning how to do this and seeing the results. And then lastly, and I need to say this, is that if you have severe vertigo, epilepsy, severe depression, and I mean severe depression that gives you like psychosis or anything like that, or schizophrenia. And why that is there is because the training is done through the computer. There's like some flashing lights and that kind of thing. And so if there's any condition in which flashing lights may trigger some negative consequence, then we want to make sure that, we don't put you in that situation. So for all of these reasons, we want you to start actually by simply enrolling for an assessment for $397, because we want to make sure that you are going to be the best fit for the program and that you are going to have the greatest chance of actually benefiting and maximizing your brain from it. So, like I said, I am suspicious of people that make 100% guarantees, because nothing is 100% guaranteed in life. And so when people are like, I'm 100% guarantee, I'm like, you're bullshitting me. And this is something that I really liked about the people that are the providers for the first part of the training, the working memory, is that they said 8 out of 10 people experience moderate to severe improvements in functioning. And I love that, because that is that's about standard with the research, but they're not saying it's going to work for sure on everybody, because nobody really can tell what your brain's going to do or not do, right? And so I want to be super honest and transparent. What I can guarantee is that if you go onto this webpage and you said, yes, I'm interested, it's going to take you to a shopping cart. You're going to pay $397 for the assessment, and it's going to be in some ways a deposit for your program and a deposit for your assessment. So if you don't show up, then you're going to lose it. But then you're going to receive an email that's going to give you a link to our scheduler for you to schedule that assessment. And then during that time, we're actually going to evaluate whether you are going to be the best fit for the program. And if we deem that you're not a good fit for the program, we'll refund you the money. We'll totally eat up the fee for the assessment, and we'll refund it to you. And so that's part of my guarantee, partly because I want to make sure that it is only the people that are going to be really the best people that are going to see the best results will get to do it. And at that point, we can also discuss whether you want to do just one part of the program or another part of the program. I've had some people ask that question, and so we can discuss at that time. So again, if you want to register, you're going to go to tinyurl.com/assessment-QBR, and then just kind of follow the prompts there, and then that will get you in my schedule for us to do the assessment, and just have a conversation as to like, yes, this is going to be the right thing for you. And then for those of you, I am actually going to be dropping the link for the multi-six-figure revenue blueprint on the chat. So be sure that you check the chat and you pick it up there. So it's not really an opt-in, it's just a direct thing, which is part of the reason why I'm dropping it in there. And I'd love to hear if you have any questions, if things are coming up for you as you're hearing all the stuff, as you're integrating all the stuff. And I'll be paying attention to the chat. I think that this is just such an incredible opportunity for you to really completely reboot your brain. So you can really become that powerful, present, focused, transformational leader that you're here to be. It will allow you to create and execute all of your dreams. And you're going to get to start really from like where it matters most, right? Like by really fully optimizing our brains. And then from there, like the sky's the limit. And ultimately, you will really get to learn how to get into that state of flow where you are working with more ease, more joy, more elegantly. So, one of the things that I tend to think about is like, what is the price that you're willing to pay not to upgrade your brain? If you see all of the ways in which our world continues to move and evolve and be fast, 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 what would happen if you don't, right? And I certainly wouldn't want to see anybody face the same thing that Bob did. It was like super sad. And that in some ways, this is going to give you, at this point, is going to give you an edge because it's a newer thing that we are now beginning to introduce to more mainstream. And so I'm sure that as soon as people that are really, really high achieving, like understand this and get a hold of it, they're going to totally be all over it because, why wouldn't you want to optimize the best system that you have in your body so that you can then perform at the best? It's sort of a no-brainer. And of course, this is the lowest price that we will ever probably be offering it at, just given all of the work that it's involved in, all the technology and all of that stuff. So again, that's the wrong website actually. So you're gonna want to go to assessment QBR. I ended up changing it, so I want to make sure that you go to the right website. It is assessment. The right website is assessment-QBR. So otherwise, it's going to take you to the wrong shopping cart. So I just want to have you make sure that you go to, I'm trying to find this slide with the correct website. So assessment-QBR. So this is the website that you want to go to schedule that assessment for us to have a deeper conversation and, examine whether you are the right fit. So I'd love, I'm kind of looking at the chat. If there's any questions, comments, ahas, I'd love to hear them. If not, then I probably will just end this. If you continue to think about it and you decide that you want to send me some questions, you can do that. Please feel free to do that. And here is my email so that you can get a hold of me. And really, it's a decision points like this that usually are difficult for a lot of people. And I will just say, one of the best ways to know whether you need to do something or not do something is whether it seems or feels a little scary and stretching you. Over time, I have learned that part of my learning to understand my intuition is that the great decisions are usually things that stretch me and things that always feel like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. And that those are usually the things that I need to move towards. And those are the things that are really have transformed my life. A lot of times we think that when we feel like some of that angst, that it's the wrong decision, and it's actually the other way around. I would say if you're feeling like, okay, yeah, whatever, this is not for me, then great, that's not for you, and I love and honor that. And if you're feeling some of that little angstiness and some of that like, oh my gosh, like, but then I would really strongly encourage you to go ahead and make that appointment, because more than likely it is the right decision for you to be doing, and it is the decision that is going to really quantumly your results in all kinds of ways, because you really are optimizing the one part of your body that hasn't been optimized since we were born. And from there, you will be able to create anything and achieve anything that you would like. So I'm not seeing any questions on the chat. And so I am just super, super appreciative to all of you being here, to those of you that were actually participating on the chat, and and sharing your insights and all of this stuff. Okay. Thank you so much, Joseph, for staying up. So I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that you gain some important and insightful information. And if you have other questions, I know that you're super, super tired, so you need to go to bed and sleep some. Feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to address them. So, okay, so I just really, really appreciate every single one of you for being here, and every single one of you for participating. And until then, defy the ordinary, become extraordinary. Have a beautiful day.